Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It is officially game week for the Oklahoma Sooners as they are set to kick off their 2023 season against Arkansas State. And although Oklahoma is going to beat Arkansas State, or certainly should beat Arkansas State by multiple touchdowns, I still think there are a couple things that you want to see if you're an Oklahoma fan that will tell you about this 2023 season and what this team will be during this 2023 season. Going to give you guys my three things. Also going to include my top three true freshman impact players and my top three transfer portal players for this Sooners team. This is a team that I've had a blast talking about all summer long, and largely because of the support from the Oklahoma fans. I mean, it's been a blast talking ball with you guys in the comment section, learning from you guys. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Y'all know how high I am on what Brent Venables can do in Norman. So the support you guys have shown truly means a lot. And then secondly, and most importantly, let me know in the comment section what the three things you guys are looking for out of Oklahoma week one. And then throw in your top three true freshmen. Throw in your top three transfer portal guys. Again, the best part about doing this, talking ball with you guys in the comment section. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys like you guys have. And let's get into it. My first thing I'm looking for is at the wide receiver position. This is something we talked all summer long about, is who's going to step up as that wide receiver. Obviously, losing a guy like Marvin Mims, when there was a play that needed to be made, like that's where the ball was going. You don't have a returning wide receiver that's caught for over 500 yards during a college football season. And so on paper, that might be like massive red lights, like you're nervous about it. It's a question. I'm not necessarily sure it's a bad thing because, as we said all summer long, there's like 8-9 guys that you feel pretty good about potentially stepping up and being that guy for this Oklahoma offense. My top two projections, Jalil Farouk, I think probably the most talented wide receiver in this Oklahoma room. And then you guys know I'm rocking with my guy, Andrew Anthony. As a Michigan fan, really rooting for Andrew Anthony. You saw him as a true freshman flash some like really, really different movement skills. And this is a guy that's a slender build, has really good long speed, but where he thrives is just creating separation. And that's something that at Michigan, he didn't transfer from Michigan because he couldn't start, like he didn't get enough snaps. It was more like Michigan's offense doesn't necessarily let you run that full route tree. It's either deep post, it's either dig route, and that's pretty much it. Andrew Anthony is a wide receiver you want really kind of being a route tree technician. And I think with this Jeff Lebby offense, he's going to be put in a spot where he's able to do that a little bit more, utilize his skill set. So Jalil Farouk, Andrew Anthony, the two guys I'll be looking for. Obviously, don't mean to sleep on Drake Stoops. He's like 7'11". Just if it hits him in the hands, he's always open, always creating separation. I love Drake Stoops. Gavin Freeman's a guy that you've been hearing some really good things out of fall camp. Jaquez Petaway, the true freshman. Again, there's a laundry list of wide receivers that can step up. We're going to find out week one, like who, when Dylan Gabriel is 3rd and 7, you got to pick out, you got to move the chains. Like, who's he going to? Who's his first look to? That's what I'm kind of looking for out of this Oklahoma team week one. Now, number two, the defensive line rotation. And I've talked a lot about the importance of having depth on the defensive line. A lot of, and I don't mean to use the word like casual fans, but if you're just looking at a team, looking at a depth chart, you're looking at the starters. On the defensive line, it's really important to look past just the first team starters because you're rotating these guys in and out. And so many college football teams have struggled building depth on the defensive line, especially with the transfer portal and guys able to just leave and go somewhere else if they're not getting the snaps they want. This, I think, could be a really special and not really a talked about enough how deep this group is on the defensive line. I think it's one really talented. You guys know my takes on Rondo Batra and how good I think he can be. Ethan Downs, an absolute dude. You have PJ Adebawore. But what I'm saying is, when you have like Marcus Stripling potentially coming in the third wave of that defensive line, he would be a starter on some other Power 5 teams. And so you look at kind of the gold standard for defense, the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, they're a group that kind of epitomizes this. And yes, they have star talent, the Jordan Davises and the Jalen Carters, but they're also rotating guys in who are going to be on NFL rosters at some point in their career. And they're running with the 2s and 3s. And so why Georgia has had so much success is when they do have to cycle those guys in and out. Keep in mind, a lot of these guys over 260, 280, 300 plus pounds, you got to be able to keep them fresh. You got to be able to give them blows. Having guys that you can kind of cycle in the talent level doesn't drop that much, I think is massive. I mean, Dejon Terry played a lot of snaps for Tennessee. a guy like Devon Spears through the transfer portal. It's a loaded group that I'm really interested to see how much they cycle these guys in and out and how they use all these guys, because you have so much versatility in terms of what guys can do. You have Rondo Bothroyd, more of like a heavy-handed, I'm going to collapse a pocket, go right through tackles with my strong hands. And then you have PJ Adebawore, who might be the twitchiest edge rusher that we see in the whole entire country. And so you have a lot of different guys. I'm interested to see how they use these different guys and how much they rotate and how do those rotations look like, because I think this could be a really, really good unit for Oklahoma, not only from a talent standpoint, but from a depth standpoint. And when you're rotating those guys, you got DeJoun Terry coming in when those offensive linemen are tired. DeJoun Terry's coming in fresh. Like, that could really be a bright spot for the Oklahoma Sooners. And the last thing I'm looking for, and there's a lot of things that we've talked about. I don't think we talked about Deshaun McCullough enough. I can't wait to see how they use a guy as versatile as Deshaun McCullough. Can blitz, can hold up in the run game, can be athletic in space. How do you use him and to create a little bit more havoc? And I think that's what Brent Venables wants to do. You see him hammering the defensive line on the recruiting trail and the transfer portal. And now you have a guy in Deshaun McCullough who you can line him up anywhere you want on the football field and just go let him get after the football. Let him go find the football, get him behind the line of scrimmage. Teams in the modern college football era, offenses are trying to kind of stretch you out. A lot of times not even using tight ends, just 4 wide receivers and a running back, forcing defenses to kind of have to match that speed. But you have to have guys that are able to have that speed and be able to match the athleticism that the offense is putting on the field, but also being able to not give up much in the run game. Deshaun McCullough is that guy, right? I can be tough in the box. I can take on blocks, shed blocks, tackle ball carriers, but I also can match up athletically with some of the more speed that you're trying to put on the field. I think he's the ultimate chess piece that can be used in so many different ways. And I'm excited to see what Brent Venables kind of schemes up for him. And I would also probably add Reggie Pearson, who I think can work in the box, kind of be a guy that blitzes off the edge, comes up and run support, but also really, really good in coverage. A lot of chess pieces that I'm kind of looking for how Oklahoma uses them. Now let's get to the fun part, and this is the top 3 impact transfer portal players and the top 3 impact true freshmen that we're going to see. And let's start with the true freshmen. And I know this is chalky. I know this is probably frustrating. I'm not doing any breaking news here, but Peyton Bowen, he's just special. We got to scroll down a little bit, get him on the depth chart here. Peyton Bowen is different. You hear in fall camp. I read the fall camp practice notes every night. Like, keep seeing his name come up. So he's a guy that I don't know if he'll start right away, because I do think there's some really good names in that secondary. But as the year goes on, he's going to be a hard guy to keep off the field. And against Arkansas State, that's a good matchup to throw a true freshman in there, let him get his feet wet. I'll be keeping my eye on Peyton Bowen, because when you talk about week 8, week 10, I think he's going to be kind of a guy that's not coming off the field as much as a true freshman. My next true freshman, I'm going back to the wide receiver room, and I'm talking Jaquez Petaway. There's a couple guys like PJ Adebawore. I really like, former 5-star. You're hearing a lot of good things from Jaquez Petaway, but also it's a position group that, it's kind of ripe for a guy like Jaquez Petaway, a true freshman, new to college football, to come in and play a meaningful role for this Oklahoma team. You lost your speedster with Marvin Mims, who ran a 4.42 or 4.38 40, stretches the field. Jaquez Petaway, massive track background, and you see that translate relatively quickly for true freshmen. It's a lot harder to get on the field as a true freshman in the trenches, because you got to put on kind of that man strength. As a wide receiver, if you're the fastest football player on the field, whether you're 18 years old or 22 years old, it doesn't really matter, because speed plays. And Jaquez Petaway has lots of speed. And then I'm excited to see Jackson Arnold. You can't leave him off the list. There's so many true freshmen I'm excited for. I don't know why I limited myself to 3. That mentioning PJ Adebawore. Jackson Arnold, I think you'll see him against Arkansas State. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. And again, that's a spot where you don't talk about depth at quarterback, but when you need a quarterback to come in and maybe win you a football game when your starter's down, that's important. And last year, Oklahoma didn't have that. This year, they have it with Jackson Arnold, who, again, I don't think it's crazy to say that you might see Jackson Arnold start a few games, whether it's due to injury, whether it's due to Jackson Arnold just being that guy as a true freshman. You have to keep your eye on him. But at the very least, he's giving you such a high floor for that quarterback 2 spot. And let's get to the impact transfer portal, guys. And I'm first going to the left tackle, Walter Rouse. And it's so rare. Every team in the country wants a starting left tackle in the transfer portal. Oklahoma, after losing guys like Anton Harrison and Wanya Morris, certainly wanted that. Grabbing a guy like Walter Rouse, who's a proven left tackle at the Power 5 level, is absolutely massive. From fall camp, emerging as a leader, also a stud at the left tackle position. That's going to be massive. I mean, anytime you get a transfer to come in, plug and play at the left tackle, he's going to be in the top 3 of impact transfer players on this list. The next guy I'm going to, and this is kind of maybe a little bit chalky, but I do have to go to Rondell Bothroyd. I mean, he's a guy that I think is criminally underrated, and that's just Wake Forest for you. I mean, as I went to Wake Forest, went to all their games, have watched Wake Forest pretty much every week. They're not going to be a team that grabs the national media's attention, but it's a team that's really, really solid, always goes 6-6 plus in the ACC, and you're getting arguably the best player from that Wake Forest team last year. I mean, this is a guy in 2021 was a first-team All-ACC guy, 17 plus tackles for a loss in 2021, coming in for a 6-year. Not only adding depth to this defensive line, I think he's going to be a starter, and I think he might be the best player on this Oklahoma defensive line. Criminally underrated player, criminally under-talked about player. Rondell Bothroyd is going to be an absolute dude. Now, we already talked to Sam McAuliffe and Reggie Pearson, so I don't want to go back to them. I'm going to go to DeJoun Terry on the defensive line as well. You talk about depth. I mean, he's a guy that's played at the SEC level. He's a big body, and whether he starts or not, he's adding a quality piece that when you have guys like Isaiah Coe that needs to come off the field, you have a guy in DeJoun Terry who's coming in and is going to be a quality player for Oklahoma. Not the flashiest name in the transfer portal, but he's a guy that is going to play a lot of snaps, and I think he's going to give you a high floor for that depth of that defensive line, which I do think is probably the biggest storyline for the Sooners heading into 2023 on the defense side of the ball is how deep they are on that defensive line. Those are my top 3 transfer guys, my top 3 true freshmen. Again, would love to hear from you guys. Wanted to keep it relatively quick. When the depth chart comes out, we'll jump on and talk about it because I'm really interested to see where these guys stack up. I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of oars on that depth chart, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That's just the staff telling you we're comfortable starting a lot of different dudes. But I am interested to see kind of how this shakes out of fall camp. Oklahoma fans, again, can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.